You're listening to the Everything Jewish 10 Minutes at a Time podcast, where you'll learn about every Jewish topic imaginable in about 10 minutes. Before we start, let me make a small, very Jewish-style apology. My Hebrew pronunciation may sometimes sound like a GPS that's been set to Yiddish grandma mode, but lost connection to Wi-Fi. That's because this isn't a real voice. It's an AI-generated voice. Hebrew words don't always roll off my tongue the way they do for people who actually practice their bar mitzvah Torah portion. So if I mispronounce something like atzilut or shevirat hakalim, just smile, nod, and chalk it up as part of the charm. Today's topic is the Etz Chaim by the Arizal. This book, whose name literally means tree of life, is one of the most famous and influential works in all of Jewish mysticism. Written down by his student Rabbi Chaim Vital, it attempts to describe nothing less than the inner mechanics of the universe, Jewish style. The Arizal, Rabbi Luria, lived in Safed in the 16th century, a city perched in the Galilee Mountains that became the Silicon Valley of Kabbalah. Imagine cobblestone streets filled with mystics instead of tech bros, incense smoke instead of vape clouds, and discussions about sephirot instead of stock options. Born in Jerusalem, raised partly in Egypt, he eventually moved to Safed and gathered a group of disciples. Although he only lived until the age of 38, his influence transformed Jewish spirituality forever. The Arizal didn't write Etz Chaim himself. He mostly taught orally. Rabbi Chaim Vital, his star student, became the stenographer, editor, and publisher rolled into one. So when we talk about Etz Chaim, we're really talking about the teachings of the Arizal as recorded and organized by Chaim Vital. Together, these two figures shaped the Kabbalah we know today. To grasp just how big a deal this was, think of the Arizal as dropping the iPhone moment of Jewish mysticism. Suddenly, everything was reimagined. The first major idea in Etz Chaim is tzimtzum, which literally means contraction or withdrawal. The Arizal asked, how can an infinite God create a finite world? If God's presence fills all space, there's no room for anything else. So, he said, God contracted his infinite light, creating an empty space where creation could occur. This wasn't God disappearing, but more like dimming the light. Imagine you're in a room with 10,000-watt stadium lights blinding you. You can't see, can't move, can't function. Tzimtzum is like installing a dimmer switch so life can actually happen. Some scholars debate whether this was a literal withdrawal or just a concealment, kind of like when Netflix says, this title is not available in your region. The content is still there, but hidden from you. Either way, the concept gave Jews a new way to talk about how God interacts with creation without overwhelming it. It's not just theology, it's a cosmic design plan. After tzimtzum, divine light re-enters the space through channels called the sephirot. You might remember from earlier episodes that the sephirot are 10 attributes, or emanations of God, like wisdom, kindness, strength, beauty, and so on. In Etz Chaim, the Arizal explains how these sephirot aren't random character traits, but structured pathways that organize creation. Imagine building a complicated Lego set where each piece has to click perfectly into place. The sephirot are like those connector pieces, guiding the infinite light into finite shapes. Without them, the universe would be like an overloaded circuit board, sparking and crashing constantly. A modern analogy? Think of cloud servers transmitting data to your phone. The sephirot are like the fiber optic cables carrying the data. They take the overwhelming power of God's infinity and break it into digestible chunks that reality can handle. And just like losing Wi-Fi brings chaos to your binge-watching plans, disruptions in these channels can cause spiritual disarray. That's where the next big concept comes in. The Arizal taught about shevirat hakelim, the shattering of the vessels. When divine light first poured into the sephirot, some vessels couldn't handle the intensity and shattered, scattering sparks of holiness throughout the universe. Think of trying to pour boiling soup into a thin plastic cup. The cup melts, soup spills everywhere, and you've got a giant mess on your hands. That cosmic mess became our world. The broken vessels left behind fragments of divine light trapped in physical matter. Suddenly, ordinary life isn't just ordinary. Every rock, tree, sandwich, or awkward Zoom call is holding on to hidden sparks. The shattering explains why the world feels both beautiful and broken. There's holiness everywhere, but it's mixed with brokenness. This wasn't just mystical poetry. It gave Jews a way to understand suffering, exile, and imperfection. The job of humanity became picking up those scattered sparks, piece by piece, and repairing the cosmic accident. That repair is called tikkun, meaning fixing or restoration. If Shevirat HaKelim is the cosmic accident, tikkun is the cleanup crew.
Ever notice how ads always pop up at the worst moments? When the killer's identity is about to be revealed. During that perfect meditation flow. On Amazon Music, we believe in keeping you in the moment. That's why we've got millions of ad-free podcast episodes, so you can stay completely immersed in every story, every reveal, every breath. Download the Amazon Music app and start listening to your favorite podcasts ad-free, included with Prime.
According to the Arizal, mitzvot, commandments like keeping kosher, lighting Shabbat candles, giving charity, aren't just religious chores. They're tools for cosmic repair. Each mitzvah frees trapped sparks of divine energy and reunites them with their source. Imagine Pokemon Go, but instead of chasing Pikachu in the park, you're gathering sparks of holiness every time you bless food or say the Shema. Every spark you release strengthens the universe's spiritual Wi-Fi signal, reconnecting creation back to God. This concept gave enormous weight to Jewish life. Suddenly, even the smallest act mattered. Eating an apple with the right blessing wasn't just healthy snacking. It was helping repair creation. The Arizal transformed mitzvot from ritual obligations into heroic acts of world healing. He turned every Jew into a superhero, their powers activated through everyday deeds, from morning prayers to late-night charity. Etz Chaim also describes the structure of multiple spiritual worlds. These aren't planets, but levels of divine reality. There are 4 main worlds: Atzilut, emanation, Beria, creation, Yetzira, formation, and Asiya, action. Picture them like levels in a video game, each one closer to or farther from the original source code. Atzilut is closest to God, pure light and unity. Beria is where the first outlines of separate existence appear. Yetzira shapes those outlines into forms. Asiya is the physical world we live in, where sparks get stuck in traffic jams and pizza delivery. These worlds aren't stacked like pancakes. They interpenetrate, meaning we live in Asiya but can connect upward through prayer, study, and mitzvot. This cosmic map gave Jewish mystics a way to understand everything, from angels to human souls to the meaning of prayer. It was like a Google Maps for the spiritual universe, charting the journey from infinite divinity down to your kitchen table. Now, here's the catch. Etz Chaim is incredibly hard to study. It's not a Kabbalah for Dummies paperback you grab at an airport bookstore. It's dense, symbolic, and filled with diagrams that look like the world's most complicated flowcharts. Traditionally, only advanced scholars who were already steeped in Torah, Talmud, and earlier Kabbalah were allowed to study it. The worry was that without proper grounding, people might misinterpret or misuse the ideas. Today, though, there are simplified guides, introductions, and even digital apps explaining the basics. Still, the original Etz Chaim is Mount Everest for Jewish learning. Beautiful, intimidating, and not something you climb without a guide. People spend lifetimes studying just a few chapters. But even if you never crack the book, the concepts have filtered down into Jewish culture, shaping everything from synagogue customs to Friday night songs. The influence of the Arizal and Etz Chaim spread far beyond Safed. Hasidism, which emerged in the 18th century, was deeply influenced by his system, making his mystical ideas accessible to the masses. Even today, the language of sparks, tikkun, and sefirot appears in Jewish liturgy, music, and teaching. The phrase Etz Chaim Hai, it is a tree of life, sung when returning the Torah to the Ark, connects to the same imagery of divine flow the Arizal expanded. Everyday Jews might not know the technicalities of tzimtzum or shevirat hakelim, but the sense that rituals connect to cosmic meaning is now deeply ingrained. The Arizal gave Jews a way to see the universe as layered, dynamic, and filled with opportunity for repair. Instead of religion being only about personal salvation or community rules, it became about participating in a vast drama of healing and restoration that touches every level of existence. So that's the time in 10 minutes, the Arizal's masterpiece about tzimtzum, sefirot, shattered vessels, tikkun, and spiritual worlds. It's the cosmic saga where God is director, humans are co-stars, and sparks of holiness are waiting to be redeemed. Whether you see it as metaphysics, poetry, or a spiritual operating system, it makes Jewish practice come alive with meaning. Next time you light Shabbat candles or say a blessing over coffee, imagine yourself uploading divine sparks back to the source. Suddenly, life feels more like a mystical adventure and less like a never-ending to-do list. Thanks for listening to Everything Jewish, 10 minutes at a time. If you enjoyed this episode, forward it to a friend who might like it, or leave a positive review so others can find the podcast. Until next time, keep gathering those sparks, one mitzvah at a time.
With its 2 juicy beef patties and 3 slices of melted cheese topped with tangy Big Arch sauce, the Big Arch is what happens when you start making a McDonald's burger and never stop. The Big Arch, the most McDonald's burger yet, for a limited time.